Well, I took a ride on the roller coaster today. My goodness, today was a wild day. We had a stock that went up over 500%. But before that happened, I dug myself a hole. Let's jump onto the screen and I'm going to start breaking it down for you. That's my P&L, $3,552. Well, it's not that impressive, certainly compared to one of my students today who shared a P&L of over $100,000 of profit. VANY. This stock, this went up over 500%. It went from less than $2 a share, $1.50 here, to nearly $8 a share. And Max traded this, and man, he crushed it. I didn't get in the zone on it very well. And I'll talk about that in a minute, but that wasn't my first trade. I started the day on ISHL. And actually, this is one of those days, I think this is a good case study for those of you guys who are new at how things can kind of snowball. So first of all, let's set the stage. Let's get a little context. I was in the Caribbean last week. I got home at like midnight on Sunday. And then my son came in at 5 a.m. He was like awake. And I'm like, it's dark out, but he was awake. So I got 5 hours of sleep on Sunday night. And then on Monday night, basically same story. Did not sleep well. Kids were in really early. So Monday night, not great. Tuesday night, last night, also not great. So when my alarm went off this morning at 6:30, I looked at it and I was like, get the F out of here. I'm not waking up. So I pull up my scans. I was like, well, let me just look at my scans. So I roll over, I look at the scans, and I check on my phone, and I was like, nothing really looks that good. So I was like, I'm going to snooze this until 7. So 7 a.m., I look at the scans again, and still there's nothing really that great. And so then, I kind of get out of bed and I'm like, I'm just exhausted. I'm like, I should start getting over to the office. And it's 7:30 and I look at my phone and all of a sudden I see, it must be 7:33. I see IXHL and I literally see it on my phone going 6:50, 7, 7:50, 8, 8:50. And I'm like, oh, dang it. Well, I missed that. And so I missed it. So it ends up, I come over here, but it had already gone up to a high of 980. It pulls back, it goes up to a high of 1040. It pulls back and it hits a high of 11 and then it pulls back. I ended up taking my first trade on it at 1150 right here. And I bought, let's see, it was 1150 and I bought a starter. Basically, I sat down at my computer and within about a minute of sitting down, it was spiking up here. And let's see, what was my order? Let me find my fill. Yeah, I was right at 750. I bought 2,000 shares at 1135. And this is kind of crazy. So this actually is a good example of slippage here on these first trades. So I'll show this to you. So at the exact same second of 750 and 28 seconds, I pressed the buy button 4 times for 2,000 shares. Total degenerate move. This is an 8,000 share position. This is way too heavy. So I was already coming out swinging. This is not good. Regardless of that, I filled 33 cents apart from 1135 to 1168. That is pathetic. That's really bad. That's terrible slippage. So now I'm in with 6,000 shares because I got some partial fills. So I'm in with 6,000 shares at like 1150. And on this candle right here, it drops to 1120. And I'm down, unrealized 30 cents on 6,000 shares. I'm down $1,800. And I'm like, whatever happened to starting the day with building a cushion? Dude, what are you doing? Thank goodness it pops up to 12. But in any case, I got out of the trade with $1,000 of profit right here. And then I got back in on a dip down here at 11, and it ends up just going lower, and I stopped out. And I think I lost on that too. So I'm up $2.51 on IXHL after a near like really sloppy start to the day. So this was not good for me. Now, this all could have been better if I was well rested and sat down at 7 a.m. and then I could have just traded this normally instead of like, a degenerate trying to make up for lost time. So IXHL makes this move to 12 and then just sort of sold off all day long. Now, my next trade was the worst trade of the day. This was on VTVT, possibly my worst trade of the year so far. VTVT hit a high today of $24 a share. Well, I bought it right in here. All of a sudden, it hits the scanner. It's popping up, and I took a starter at $16. I bought 2,000 shares at 16. It squeezes up to 17, to 1770, to 18, and I added $18.31. I thought on this one, at this moment, it was going straight up from 10 to 17. I was like, we might get a move up to $20, $25 a share. Well, that ended up happening later. I definitely had the right idea. But all of a sudden, it flushes to 12. And I'm down like $4 a share. $4 a share on 2,000 shares starter is $8,000. Now, that's from at the very bottom. It did pop back up and I was able to unwind the loss, but I still lost $7,500 on that trade. Boom. It's 8:05. I'm in the red, deep. That would have been the biggest red day I've had all year. So at this point, I had to make a decision. I'm three trades into the day. I'm down $7,500. And I'm thinking, all right, I definitely just screwed up big time. This is not great. What should I do? What I know about myself is that on days where I hit my max loss, which is 5,000, and I continue to trade, I have an 80% chance of doubling my max loss and being down 10 grand or more. So I knew that was my statistical disadvantage on today. So that's what my metrics tell me. Now, it's important to know this. However, what I also know is that in the last 2 weeks, the market has been very hot and we've seen some really big moves. And it's only 8 a.m. It's early. So I said to myself, okay, let's draw the line at 10,000. I'm already down 7,500. This sucks, but let's draw the line at 10. Double my max loss, but we're going to draw a hard line there, which gives me $2,500 of risk. So I can't go risk 10,000 to try to make 10 grand on the next trade and get myself to green, but I've got a little bit of risk that I'm willing to take. This is a calculated risk. I could go down and be down 10 grand, and it would be a big red day for me, relatively speaking. But we're in a pretty hot market. So let's see what I can do with this $2,500 of risk. If it had been 9 a.m. or 9:30, I would have just walked. But because we were still at the beginning of my window where I trade well, I wanted to see what was moving. I was like, let's give it some time. So I sat patiently until my my next trade, which was on JANX. Now, JANX, this is a stock that put in a pretty big move yesterday. It squeezed up from, let's see, the low was, it squeezed up from like $17 a share, $15 a share, all the way up to 50. VKTX also made a similarly big move yesterday, similarly priced, and this one went up to $100 today. So when JANX hit my scanner, and I have to thank Doug for calling this out. He said, "Hey Ross, take a look at JANX. It's moving up." So I pulled it up and I was like, "Yep, okay, nope, there it is. You're right." And I took a starter position at $58.60. Okay. So now my starter position on this was 150 shares. That's not a lot. All right. It's a small position. Even for me, it's a small position. But look, I as I said, got to manage my risk. So that was as it popped up on this candle. Basically, it was starting to creep away just a little bit. And I was like, I'll take a starter of 150 shares. Let's see what it wants to do. It ends up going up to $62 a share. 4 points, right? $600. So I was like, okay, that's not bad. I can't complain about that. So we got a 4-point move right there. Now let's look at the 1 minute chart. So, made a couple $100 on that first trade. And I was like, okay, good. And really, as soon as I had that first trade, I was like, all right, I'm starting to break the ice here. I had a winner. That was nice. It ends up going to a high of 63.32 right here, which is about 5 points from my entry. So I was like, okay, small size, not a home run, but that's fine. It's a winner. It pulls back, and as it comes back up right here, as it breaks over 62, I got back in. This time I started with 500 shares. It's a little bit of a bigger position, but I started with 500. And as it pulled away and broke through the previous high of 64, I added another 500 shares. So now I'm in with 1,000. And we're going 64, 65, 66. This literally went up $15 a share. This went from $62 right here, the breakout, all the way up to a high of $78 a share, $77 a share. So I was scaling out as it went up. And I probably sold a little too much too soon. But this was a solid trade. I added once I was already green on the trade. My initial trade, the spread was pretty tight, so the risk wasn't too bad. And I ended up locking up $7,865 on JANX. So those two trades cancel each other out. I'm up 300 on the day. But then I had a trade on Silo. Silo hits the scanners, and I said, I'm not going to buy the high a day. I'm going to wait for a dip. So this stock, it's such a piece of garbage. The stock ends up squeezing here up to 240. And I bought a dip as it came down to 2. I was like, I'll buy a dip at 2. Let's see if it bounces off the whole dollar. Nope. Kept going lower. Lost $400. All right, so I'm red 150 on the day. And then VANY came along. VANI. Now, I've already been through the roller coaster here at this point, and I'm like, maybe I should just walk away. Clearly, I'm not even like, I don't even know if I'm really could say I'm in the zone today. Yes, JANX was a good trade, but like, I don't know. So I took my first trade on VANY at $2.50. Wish I could have held those shares a little longer, but I took my first trade at 250. So that was back in this area. So it squeezes up here. I'm in at 250, which is a little high. It hits a high of 264. It flushes down to 243, drops down to 234, and I was still holding. I was red because it only popped up for a second. It comes back up, and I got out at like 260. And I was like, ugh, I don't know. This thing's kind of choppy. It drops all the way down to 230. I got a dip down here, and this was actually, I would say this was my best trade of the day. On this trade, I got in on this pullback. I want to say it was around 218. It really was a solid trade. Let's see where it is right now. Anyways, it doesn't matter. So I got in on this pullback. It comes back up to 250. Took some profit. Got myself up $1,500 on the day. Not trading with big size. The people who made the most on this were people who were trading like 30 and 50,000 share blocks. I was trading smaller than that. So anyways, it starts climbing up here. It rejects at 75, comes up to 75. It flushes down to 53. I bought the dip off 50. It comes up, breaks 75, goes up to 3. Made a little bit of money there, but I also added for the break of 3 at 305, and it flushes here down to, what was it? It flushed down here. I stopped out on that trade, and then it starts to pull away. And I was like, okay, I feel like I'm missing this, so I'm gonna buy at 350. So at 350, I bought, and look at me. I stop out for a loss. I was like, God dang it. So it comes back up. I was like, I'm going to get back in at 350. So at this point, when I'm getting back in at 350, I'm back to flat on the day. I'm not even green on VANY. I made money and lost it on this drop. So I get back in at 350. It pops up to 370. And then it's kind of heavy up here. Made a little bit of money, but not big. And I literally got back in as it came up to 374 and stopped out right here. And once again, was back to break even on it. I kept trying to buy breakouts and I kept getting stopped out. You can see this was respecting an ascending support line quite well. But then that line became resistance right in here. So it became resistance. And then all of a sudden we blast through here. We break through that resistance. We go up to 420. And all of a sudden, this thing is at 5. So I chased it a little in here and made some profit. And then as it broke through 5, I took a trade on the break of 5 and we got a squeeze up to 6. And that was basically, the high a day right there. Max was like, I'm up 100,000. I was like, God dang, I'm up $3,000. I'm pathetic today. And anyways, so at the open, I was a little concerned about the volatility, and I did not take this trade. I was just worried about a possible flush at the open. It halts up, it almost halts down, it pops up, it almost halts down again, and then it started pulling back. So a lot of coulda, woulda, shouldas on this one, but to be honest, this day was a mess. And initially, when I was at 7,500, I was just thinking, let's cut the loss in half. Let's just see what I can do. It's still early, and I'm finishing the day green. This is one of the rare exceptions, 20% of the time, roughly, where I hit my max loss and recovered to green. Now, I didn't hit my daily goal, and despite VANY making a huge move, I really didn't trade it very well, which is a little annoying. Maybe that's because I took this initial loss on VTVT and ISHL and I was just off my game. Or maybe it's just because, well, this is a 27 million share float. It had more algorithmic trading. It was a little choppier. And the breakouts were tending to do more of these false kind of rejections and then flushes. And I just got caught in a few of them. I don't know. I saw some other traders who were red this morning trading VANY. So I'll try not to feel too bad about it. But to then see VTVT a little later in the morning squeeze up. And I was kind of watching it because I was like, VANY, VANY, for what it's worth, look at this chart. It popped up. It gave back almost the whole move right here. And then it starts to curl. So I was kind of like, VTVT, like not for nothing, but this one kind of looks similar. This was at, about this time here. I was like, it kind of looks similar. Popped up, pulled back. Are we going to squeeze up? And I was sort of watching it, but anyways, I didn't trade it in here. And it sort of false started a couple times before it finally moved, but it halted down. Anyways, it's not a big deal. At the end of the day, today is not a record breaker in a green way or a red way. It's just a small green day, and I've got to be grateful for that. I don't want to overstay my welcome. There's no sense in, pushing my luck. So I just have to get a good night's rest tonight and be back at it bright and early tomorrow morning. When you're not rested and you start to fall behind on sleep, it can have a compounding effect on the way you trade. So manage your risk, take it slow. Reminder as always, my results are not typical. Today was a roller coaster for me, but I'm grateful to be locking it up in the green. So thanks you guys for tuning in, and I'll be back at it live streaming for Warrior Pro members first thing tomorrow morning, and I'll upload my recap tomorrow afternoon. All right, have a good one. See you tomorrow.